Welcome back, everybody, to the Financial Advisors Workshop. This is a show where we talk to some of the top colleagues in the industry. And we have an advisor here who's joining us today from Missouri, the great state, the show me state of Missouri. Why don't you introduce yourself and tell us all about yourself?
Thank you. I appreciate it, Brian. So I am from Missouri. Our main office here is in actually St. Joe, Missouri. And so might not have heard of St. Joe before, but we're just outside of a town called St. Kansas City. So big town with the Chiefs. Happy to see them this year, performing well. And so I started in the business about 10 years ago or so. So I went to work after college at a company called Fidelity Investments and worked on their wholesaler desks. And I spent some time there, kind of from a wholesale perspective, working with advisors across the country. So a really cool opportunity to kind of cut my teeth and learn a little bit about the business. And then I came back here to work in the actual wealth advisor business, so meeting with clients one-on-one. And my father had started this company about 35 years ago. And so in some sense, I kind of grew up in the industry, and it was a cool experience for me to be able to come back, to be a part of this firm and to be, able to help them out and grow in the next stage of business. So a little bit about myself and just kind of a high level touch on the business as well.
So you kind of grew up in the business, didn't you, Charles?
I did. Yeah. Yeah. It's kind of funny. I mean, I think, I was kind of reminiscing here earlier, just the fact that, I remember being here as a kid and then coming and playing with toys, on the weekends in the office, and, to be here 30 years later and, you're now working in the office, meet with clients is a different perspective. So, it was fun.
Well, good. Well, Charles, so tell us a little bit about your practice and how you run the show there in Missouri.
Yeah. So within our practice, there's 4 advisors here in this office. There's another advisor, a couple hours north of us that we help work with as well. So I operate as both an advisor and an OSJ, which means that, help from a practice standpoint. The different advisors do compliance tasks, and I help them with various practice management and some back office operations as well. But our practice does mainly fee-based financial planning, wealth management for clients. We help clients kind of from all different backgrounds. We come from a community with wide smattering of different individuals, and so we help individuals kind of across the spectrum with those needs. So
Nice. And so, how does that work through, like, with planning? You're a CFP, right?
that's
So,
correct. That's correct.
so is everybody on a plan?
Yeah. So, that planning process starts from kind of the first meeting. And we have a pretty big due diligence process of getting to know them from a deep perspective. From that process, getting to know where they're at today, getting to know where they want to go, we ultimately put together a plan. And perspective, we use different software. So we use eMoney to help us do that planning. But it's not a giant, binder we put on them, and say, here's a checklist you need to follow. From our perspective, it's more of, we call it a conversational planning perspective. And so it's a little bit more of an approachable way for a client to come in and to understand what the planning process looks like. For them, it feels like a conversation with a friend, but we're going to walk them through a process that ultimately leads them to their goals. And so that's what our planning process looks like.
So your clients aren't your friends initially, but they become your friends, don't they?
Oh my gosh, 100%. Yeah. So it is a cool process to get to know someone on that level. And, I think that it's interesting too, just because you get to have client conversations with people that are oftentimes deeper than some of their closest confidants, right? They tell you things about their life, about their marriage or their health or their children, that they might not tell someone else. And so it's, there's that confidentiality piece, but there's that trust piece as well that I think is so powerful, and I think you blow yourself away sometimes just by the level of connection you form with these individuals and the care you have for them. Because I do think, there's just something special about wanting the best for them and having that as the kind of center guiding light, So, and like I said, I grew up in the business. My father always told me, hey, you do the right thing every day, you treat your clients right every day, and everything else is going to take care of itself. And so I followed that process so far, and I've trusted it's going to work out. And so far it's worked out pretty well.
Nice. Well, good. So, how do you handle the money management, Charles?
So money management. So we both do models internally, and then we have investment models we kind of outsource. So clients that are maybe just getting started, we might use a different third party to help manage that money. But then for clients with maybe a little more complicated situation, maybe a larger pool of assets, we'll have internal models that we run. So we have an accumulation model that is based on kind of the accumulation stage of life, more focused on growth. And then we have a distribution model that's more focused on downside protection and on income. And then those models allow us ability to kind of scale from a practice standpoints, allow us to create a consistent client experience. We have a thorough due diligence process we run through. And so we know with confidence that we're delivering high quality product to the client from an investment perspective. But then the other thing too, within our program, it allows us some flexibility. So when we reuse our models, we can create different alternatives. We can tax loss harvest more agilely. So we have different abilities to create a customized experience for the client, but still make sure there's scalability and there's a really strong due diligence process behind the product we're delivering to the client.
I'm hearing a theme here in your discussion, Charles, that goes along with something you told me early in the pre-discussion about systemizing and efficiencies. Tell us more about that, because I think that could be a key, a real differentiator.
Yeah, no, I appreciate you bringing that up. I mean, I think that has been a key for us. I mean, if I go back, it's kind of funny. If I go back, just a few years ago, there was a lot of ways of doing things, but there wasn't a lot of systems in place for how they're done. We kind of bring up things from time to time here in the office and say, well, why do we do it this way? And the what we always used was, well, it evolved. And it evolved mean we decided the time to do something, and then we kind of forgot what it was, and we did it again later days, And so those systems and ways of doing things were kind of lost over time. I think that's very natural for a lot of just advisors who are so focused on the client, right? They're focused on doing what they have to do on a day-to-day basis and not focused on maybe the long-term implications of what some of these decisions might mean. And so for us, the last few years, we've taken a really, really serious look at what systems look like. And I touched on just a second ago, investment management. And so that's certainly a big piece of having systems. But the other thing of that, and one area that we're really focused on is from an operational perspective. So making sure we have really solid systems for how we do everything from an operations perspective. So from taking new money in and bringing on a client to how we manage that client from a back office perspective on an ongoing basis. And so we brought in a consultant a couple of years ago to help with that. And there was an individual that had some background in systems and could kind of deep dive and also had a different perspective, right? We're so ingrained in just this is the way we do things. Have a different set of eyes that says, hey, maybe you consider doing this way, or maybe we should stop doing this because why we've been doing this for so long is really, really helpful.
Right.
And then that, kind of led us to the point where we've created a whole set of systems and documentation for how we do things. And then from an operational perspective, a set of like training as well. And so in the last 2 years, we have had 2 assistants leave. One was an older assistant that was ready to retire. The other one went on maternity leave, came back and told us that she was going to stay on maternity leave forever. And so we're happy that she got to spend time with her family, but it meant we had to kind of go full force and to making sure we were on the path to find, hire, replace someone new. So.
Well, good. Well, so how big do you think this business will get? Are you adding another partner, perhaps? Do you have designs of building it and scaling it even more?
Yeah, we definitely do. I think we're in the process and we're continuing to focus on the foundation. The foundation is being very, very solid right now. And so the next stage for us is to continue to grow. And so that growth, we believe, can not only happen in the area we're in through enhanced marketing and bringing on some advisors here, but from a expanded geographic standpoint as well. And so we're exploring different ideas to expand there. And so very, very confident and excited about the next steps.
Great. Good. So what do you see for the future of the industry, and how would it affect your plan?
Yeah, I mean, I think that, we've seen some pretty dramatic changes here in the last, 3 to 5 years. I think that if you think about the changes from back in the, 70s, 80s, big A share, C share type business back then, right? That kind of slowly over the course of several decades transitioned to fee-based business as a predominant way to do business. And the last few years, we've seen some big changes as far as regulations. And I think the next big change likely on the horizon is technology. Certainly, we've seen technology be a driving force as far as just different CRMs and different planning software is, but I think the advent of artificial intelligence and all the different technology that we're seeing is going to be a big game changer. We really haven't seen, I don't think, fee compression yet on a big scale. I mean, I think that's still a lot of people's mind. I think that that's going to head in that direction at some point. And I think that the robo advisor thing is something that was maybe a blip in the system and people didn't worry about. But I think at some level, those younger clients are going to be looking for a different way to consume wealth management. So I do think that there are the next few years, there's going to be some big changes as far as where the industry goes.
Great. Well, how many families do you work with, Joe?
So we work with probably 300 to 400 kind of core families, families that we are meeting with on a very regular basis. We have a little bit broader client base from that perspective, just because we have some retirement plans we help administer. We have some kind of families, some kids, let's say, that we help manage their money, but those aren't as deep ongoing relationships, but probably 300 to 400 really core, solid family relationships.
So how do you review with all those people? Like what kind of service do they get?
Yeah. So we'll do a very deep formal review once a year. We'll do a check-in, kind of midway through the year. Formal review happens for us usually kind of the first quarter of the year. That's a time period for us to kind of bunch our meetings together. It's been a way for us to systematize that as well, as far as the way we meet with clients, that we get in the groove and we kind of get a system for how we meet with clients and bunching them in that first quarter of the year. Then kind of the back half of the year, we'll continue to maintain those relationships. We'll be having events. We'll be checking in with clients throughout the year, depending on kind of what they're at. And then someone's on like a life stage, if they're going through retirement, if they're any number of different life stages that are happening, we might be meeting with them on a more regular basis. But from a kind of an ongoing basis, there we have that one kind of deep dive annual review and some check-ins. And that usually happens kind of the first quarter of the year was kind of bunched together.
Okay, very good. All right. Do you see any other colleagues in your industry that would be important to work with? Do you have good partners in the area as well? Is that part of it?
We do. Yeah, we do. We definitely lean on our partners. We work closely with Osaic as our back office. And so they provide a suite of services for us. And they're been very good about making sure they get on the phone with us and so we can grab anyone from a specialist standpoint there, which has been helpful. And then, from an investment perspective, we've got a number of different, partners that we work very closely with that help us provide any number of different resources. So whether that's content, whether that's knowledge, or, typically we'll lean on one or multiple of those partners on an annual basis to help do a deep dive into our investment portfolios, which has been very helpful. And if any advisors looking into that, I think they should pick that up because it's a great process to get a second set of eyes and some professionals kind of look at that as well.
Yeah. Interesting. So, do you talk much about markets with your clients?
That's a good question. I mean, yeah, I think, well, we do talk about markets at a high level. I think that clients want to make sure that we've got a really good handle on things. And I think they want to know directionally where things are headed. Most of our client conversations are probably more around, their life and their goals. And so, we want to make sure the conversation is focused around the things that matter and we don't get caught up in the headlines. So we want to make sure that we acknowledge the headlines. We want to make sure that we communicate to our clients what we see on the horizon,
Mhm.
that we're making adjustments with all that in mind. But we want to make sure that they're focused on the bottom line, right? The things that matter, the goals they have, and the process we put in place to make sure they achieve those things.
Exactly. Well, that's great. Well, what do you think is going to happen in the markets? We've had a terrible year in 22, and this year looks like a good year, but realistically, most investors haven't done that well. The indexes are dominated by 7 stocks, and
Exactly.
so what are you telling people now, Charles?
I think cautiously optimistic is the term that I've been using. And so I think that, headed into next year, I think there is a probability that there is some sort of recession. And I always tell clients, I think that term gets thrown out around a lot and people go back and they flash back to, '08 when everyone was out of a job, or '20s when, we were standing on food lines. And, I don't think that we think it's going to be anything like that. The reality is that, most people won't really feel it. That there will be a recession on paper, but we'll probably kind of muddle our way through it. And so I guess my perspective is cautiously optimistic. I think in the near term, there's still some uncertainty there around the Fed, some uncertainty around political scene, and some certainty are there around kind of what the federal, what the geopolitics are going to do, right? And so from that perspective, I think that uncertainty is going to create potentially some volatility in the near term. But ultimately, I think we'll find our way through this.
Nice. Well, good. Well, we're coming to the end of our discussion, and I just wanted to say that, about 300 advisors will see this discussion that we've had with you. And then about 1,000 people over the next year or two will see it. So just wondered if there was any message you'd like to send to our colleagues, our brethren in the industry. Now that you have the floor, they're all in the conference room looking at you right now. What would you like to tell them?
Well, I appreciate you giving me the floor. So, I would say, now, we're at the end of the year here. Well, at least when we're recording this, I'm not for sure when you listen to this, but we're at the end of the year here. And I think from my perspective, it's a great time to be assessing where you're at. So I know we talk to our clients about, hey, where are you at? Where you want to go? And let's make a plan. But I think sometimes we neglect doing that for ourselves. And I think
Right.
there's a really important time now to take a breath here and say, well, where is my business at? What does it really look like? Where do I want to go? And let's start making the steps necessary to get there. So I think that I'd certainly try to communicate that to them. And I'm sure a lot of them are already doing that, but hey, it never helps for us to get reminded. So
So it's good to be reminded of that and to step back from your practice and say, hey, what are we doing here? How do we serve clients better? Right.
100%, 100%. So again, like I said before, I mean, our thesis and has been, hey, you do the right thing every day. You take care of your clients will take care of you. And so I think that that's, a big thing. Something I communicate as well is just that if you're working on a daily basis to get better every day, that those goals you have in mind are going to be inevitable, that they'll come true. And certainly I think that they're going to be beneficial to your clients, right? Your clients are going to be taken care of. And ultimately that's going to help you take care of the business.
That's fabulous. Well, great. Well, very, very great to talk with you today. We really appreciate you being here with us on the Financial Advisors Workshop. And I think, we'll leave it there and look forward to visiting with another really key member of our industry. Things are good out in Missouri, aren't they, Charles?
That's right. That's right. Yeah. It's beautiful out here. So come have a visit.
Excellent. Again, well, thanks for being with us. Thanks, everybody, for being with us on the Financial Advisors Workshop. We'll be back again shortly with another interview with a wonderful guy just like Charles. Take care, everybody.
Thanks so much. I appreciate it. Yep.
Bye-bye.